People need an income that's guaranteed to them.
If you lose money to taxes, you never get that money back.
You need to get serious about adding some lower risk.
Greed. I don't like greed.
The thing to be afraid of, honestly, is the thing that we're not thinking of, the black swan event.
There's a tsunami coming. Bye.
Welcome to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Just coffee talk.
There's a lot of noise, a lot of chatter. Who do you listen to? Who do you not listen to? You have to stay focused.
A fun and informative look at the issues of wealth, retirement, and protecting your life savings.
These advisors out there that were trained to sell, and have all these fees, they don't want to talk about this product, so they make less money.
And now, Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Welcome once again to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, you can find us, of course, at zinniawealth.com. We're glad you found us here on the radio or our podcast. And we're here to talk about you, your money, your retirement, and all the questions that you have that are surrounding that. There comes a time when we're going to walk away from our job, and we hope that we've done enough, saved enough, and have the right people helping us. And that's really what this show is all about. Charisse, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's been a busy week and looking for rest.
For Labor Day, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Rest, barbecuing, footballing, you know, all that jazz. I'm going to do a little work while I'm at it.
Yeah, exactly right.
Playing catch up. So, yeah, it's great. What about you?
Well, I'm going to, that's my thing. Steak, baked potato, corn on the cob. That's me. That's what I do when I do any kind of a holiday barbecue or anything like that.
Are you still doing that green egg stuff?
I am not doing that. My son-in-law has a green egg. He's almost given up on that thing. All of us were using the Blackstone now. Have you got a Blackstone in your life?
I don't.
Okay, so that's like a griddle, and it's so we're doing a lot of cooking on that. It's great for fish because it doesn't fall through the grates, so that's kind of nice. But in any event, we are going to rest a little bit this weekend. That's good. Everybody should. But we're going to get right at it. I mean, there's lots of things that we help people with, not only with their finances, but we want to kind of point you to an event that's coming up in September. We're right on the edge of September here now. It's called Give for Marion, and it's an event, but it's an online event. It happens on September the 17th and 18th. We're going to be talking about it more as we get closer. But, a lot of us, Charisse, we look at different issues that are important to us, whether it's caring for animals, where it's helping people at shelters, where it's helping the hungry, where it's helping veterans, and you don't know where to go. And this is an event that helps people kind of put the two people together and show you, hey, you can help here.
It is. And I have been introduced to the people who run the Give for Marion. And I was pleasantly surprised, like what leaders they have there and the people who actually came up with this idea. It is the Ocala Community Foundation. It's a 501c3, and they raise money. And they have this one special day, Give for Marion, give and the number 4 and then Marion. If you go to their website, you can look at it ahead of time. But anybody who has a 501c3, a charity, you can be part of this Give for Marion. And so anybody who's listening to me and you have one, might not be too late. I'm not sure, but we're getting close. But what happens is the community foundation all day long matches your donations potentially. So if you get like $1,000 donation, you might get a match of 100, or maybe you get a match of 1,000, whatever it is. And it's like kind of first come, first serve. And they do it all day long. And local big companies get involved and they say, okay, I want to donate to the community foundation $30,000 or $100,000, and that community foundation spreads it out all day long to match as people are going to that site during that time period. This is only one time a year they do this. And then it's a fun thing to get everybody involved. I just went to a training, well, 2 trainings, and there was other foundations in there. And you know what I loved about it, Randy, is that they were all helping each other. Yes, they all want to get people to, go to their foundation landing pages at Give for Marion and donate to them. But everybody was helping everybody. And I just learned something that was very interesting in there. And I think that's the most important thing. We all have an initiative. We want to save the world. We want to help hungry animals and kiddos and impoverished people and churches. And there's so many people out there that just want to help, right? They're hearts of servants. And like ours, we have the Grilled Cheese Foundation. So the Grilled Cheese Foundation will have their own landing page on there. So if you go to that site, Give for Marion, you can just go to the search bar and type in Give for Marion. But if you're like, no, Sharice, we don't want to donate to you, but we want to donate not to kids, Sharice, because that's what the Grilled Cheese Foundation is all about. It might be about animals. So you can type in animals and you'll see some great local 501c3s there, and you'll see one that's called Vocal. I love them to death over there. If it's green, if you want to save the planet, type it in and you'll find it. So they've really orchestrated it nicely. You'll love it. And we just hope everybody in the community joins that day, 17th and 18th, and donate. And hey, and the nice thing is you just donate $10. If you're just thinking, I really do want to give back, don't wait for the holidays. That's when everybody wants to give back for some reason. Like, do it now. Do $10 now. Do $10 later, and really give back to the community, because it is for Ocala and some surrounding areas.
So the website is give and then the number 4marion.org. Give4marion.org. And you can find it there. Scroll down a little bit, and then you can select what is on your heart, how you want to help, and they'll put you together with people who have that same heart.
Yes, and we're going to have them on our radio show just talking about the foundation the couple days before that goes live.
All right, that's all coming up.
Yep.
Well, let's get into some finances here. It's going to be an interesting month in the month of September. This is the month that finally we will probably see the Federal Reserve cut interest rates, not raise interest like they've been doing for the last couple of years. And so along with that goes a lot of speculation. What is this going to do to the market? How much are they going to cut? And one of the things that has happened over the last week or so, Sharice, is there was an adjustment in the labor numbers. We've all seen the unemployment numbers kind of tick up just a little bit. We've been wondering about that because we've talked about that. That's usually the last shoe to fall before a recession. Now we find out that the numbers we thought were there are not there. There's almost 1 million jobs that we thought were there that aren't. So now people are saying, maybe we actually are in a recession right now. We just don't know it. We'll know it 6 months from now, or maybe there's something that's going to happen in 2025. So there's a lot of talk about this, isn't there? There
is. And usually, Randy, I don't know if you know this, we see a recession on average about 10 quarters after a Fed tightening cycle takes place.
Okay.
So that would be probably next year this time sometime, right? If that were to still be a continued true statement from past years.
Yep.
And so what you guys can do, anybody who likes to geek out on this stuff, there's something called the SAHN report, SAHN. And it's a recession report, and it is usually rather accurate. And if you look at history too. But do you remember when Ben Bernanke came out? He was the head of the Federal Reserve back in 2008, and we had the subprime mortgage crash. It was before the crash. Bernanke came out and said, even though the U.S. economy is facing a difficult combination of circumstances, the Fed isn't forecasting a recession. He literally came out and said that before the big crash. So just so you know, the Fed doesn't forecast recessions. And they're saying now, even the Feds are saying, oh, we're not forecasting a recession. So I'm like, well, you guys said this in 2008 and you've said it before. So follow that SAHN report. You'll get some good insight from it if you really want to know and dig in a little bit deeper. So just ignore all the noise out there, because there's so many people out there saying this or saying that, or no, there's no recession. We're going to go up, up and away. And hey, you shouldn't have to worry about it. When those days do come, you're not going to have these worries that other people will, because they have their head in the sand and they're not paying attention and they're just doing what they've always done.
It's interesting. The Fed is trying to illustrate a soft landing. So they're obviously going to be optimistic, but there are certain articles out there and there's plenty of people saying that this is where we're headed. So I want to hit you with this one today, Sharice. MarketWatch interviewed 6 different financial professionals, and they put together a list and said, if you're worried about a recession, here are 5 things you can do. So here's their list. I wanted to get your opinion on it. Number 1, build up cash reserves. Number 2, pay off your high interest debt. Number 3, consider adjusting your risk by rebalancing. Number 4, don't try to time the market. And number 5, if it happens, stay calm, no knee-jerk reactions. So when you look at those 5 things, do you say that's a good list? Would you add to that list? What's more important than others? Tell me what you think.
Well, I love how the advisors created this list. The very last one was stay calm. Yet that advisor has no soft landing for you, and you're going to potentially maybe you lose 40 or 50%. So stay calm.
Ugh.
Don't try to time the market. So I am in agreement to that. You don't want to time the market, because anytime you try to time it and the market goes down a little bit, maybe you sell and then the market pops right back up, and maybe the market lost 10, you lost 10 and then you sold, but then it comes right back like what just happened. And then you lose that gain, and then you lose your confidence. You're like, well, it's got to come back down. I'm not going to re-enter. And you keep losing gain after gain after gain. So we don't want you to go do this on your own, and timing the market's very hard. I do see that it says, consider adjusting your risk by rebalancing. So I do truly believe in a smart, balanced portfolio, a smart asset allocation per se. And a lot of people think, well, I have asset allocation, Sharice. I have 60% in equities, 40% in bonds, and maybe just 50 grand in cash. Okay. That is the old school balanced asset allocation. That no longer is going to be as resilient as it has been in the past, because if bonds, for example, in 2022, the equities market went down and you lost, and the bond market went down. But if bonds are there for the soft landing so that you can pull income out of the bonds while the stock market's going down because you think bonds are stable, bonds are not stable, especially in these different shifting interest rate environments. So you have to be extra cautious, and it's time to look outside the box. Maybe it's time to add some of those different alternatives from real estate to commodities, maybe even Bitcoin if you like that kind of risk, indexed annuities, income annuities, treasury notes, fixed income options, not just bonds and equities, because you're going to need these other things like real estate plugged into your portfolio, because you want consistency in retirement. You've already won the race. You've made your money. So I always ask people when they come in, what are you trying to do? Why are you taking this kind of risk? If the market crashes, this quantitative analysis says you're going to lose 50%. If it's the same crash we had in 2008, if it's not worse, what are you trying to do? And I'm like, well, I do want to protect my principal, Sharice. I was like, well, are you trying to look for 15% gains every year? He's like, well, I would like to, but realistically, I know that's not possible, because if I take that kind of risk and I can make that kind of money, I can also lose my shorts. And when you're entering or in retirement, you're not in accumulation phase. I need people to listen up here, because we have been in accumulation phase our entire lives. As long as you receive that paycheck from work, you were good to go. And you were growing your money. And if the market crashed, you were told, don't sell, keep it. It's a paper loss, and keep on going. And it works. And it still works today. But now that you're retired or getting ready to retire, and the people who are retired right now, you probably have not lived off your buckets during a crash yet, because you probably retired after the crash. Some of you listeners out there. So I really want you to hear this. If the market goes down 40% and you lose 40%, and you're living off this money during this decumulation phase, this means now we're living off our money. It is going to be a painful process and a hazard that you're not expecting, or you don't even see, because you don't do this every day. And I tell people this, I know the markets are going up and they go down, they go up, we get excited about it. It's time to reset your asset allocation. It is time for you to sit with a advisory firm that understands asset allocation and has more options than just a 60-40 portfolio. It is time to really wake up and smell the coffee and start listening to this noise. How many of you heard this noise in 2005 and 6? Something's looming, something doesn't feel right. And then 2007 and 8 and 9 took place. I'm feeling the same vibe, everyone. This is the vibe. I'm not predicting that's what's going to happen. I don't have a crystal ball, but all the math is showing us to go down this direction. So when it says consider adjusting your risks by rebalancing, take some poker chips off the table. Not all your money has to make 10 and 12%, in retirement. It should be about what you keep, not what you make in retirement, because you're likely not to run out of money as long as you have a true, really well-built income plan and strategy as you're living the next 30, maybe 40 years in retirement. So Again, let's recession-proof your portfolio. And I know some of you are thinking out there, I have not built a sturdy portfolio. I don't even know if I have a resilient portfolio. And if that is you, give us a call or go to our website at zinniawealth.com. And there's a gold button and it says complimentary review. Click it and put your information in there, and we will start these conversations. And even if the stock market keeps going up, there still needs to be an exit strategy. There still needs to be a backup plan. There still needs to be a better soft landing in most people's portfolios today.
Well, one of the things you've heard a lot about is this soft landing, a soft landing for the economy. What about a soft landing for your retirement? You know, I like to think about it is you've built this castle. Let's build a moat around your castle. You have retirement castle. Let's build some protection around your money. Give us a call. Give us a look at the website. As Cherise said, ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. Hit the button that says complimentary retirement consultation. We'll take it from there, or you can just reach out to us, 833-368-3680. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we've talked about this rule before of withdrawal of your money, and it's called the 4% rule, and Cherise has shot a lot of holes in it. Well, Michael Finca says he agrees with Cherise that this thing doesn't work, but he brings up a whole different reason why it doesn't work, and it makes a lot of sense to me. See if it makes sense to you. We'll have it next on Retirement Coffee Talk. Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Cherise Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, it is ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. Well, we talk about the importance of having an income plan. Everybody wants to know, how much can I spend in retirement and not run out of money? There's a rule out there called the 4% rule. As long as the market's going up about 7% per year, you can take out 4% and you won't run out of money. Seems simple, but there's a lot of caveats to that, because what if the market goes down and you're still taking 4%? Economist Michael Finca, we've heard from him before. He says this rule doesn't work for a different reason: human nature.
I think people should decide if they want to live better in their late 60s and 70s. When you do have the physical capabilities and the cognitive capabilities to enjoy your life more. I mean, there's not a whole lot of 95-year-olds that are going on world vacations. And the fact is that you can't enjoy it as much in your 90s as you could in your 60s or 70s. So I think you should have the power to be able to choose the slope of your spending. And in reality, it does appear that people do spend less as they get older.
All right. So, Cherise, he's got a great point. You say it all the time. Go out there, spend your money while you're healthy. You'll slow down. Your spending will go down. And then with healthcare, it'll probably go up in your later years.
Right.
Makes a lot of sense.
So we've debunked the 4% rule. So is Wade Fowle, a retirement professor, and others, because the 4% rule was created in the early 90s when this anomaly took place and the stock market just boomed for the next 20 years. And it worked because you were making on average 17% a year in these mutual funds per se, as Dave Ramsey would call it, if you followed his method. And back then it was like that. It was the wild, wild west. It was so much easier to make money in funds and a lot of these stocks out there. So fast forward a couple of crashes. Let's say you follow the 4% rule from 1990. I mean, you could follow that 4% rule from 1980s to 2000, and it would have been a winning rule, and your legacy would have just been still stacking to your heirs. But let's say instead you retired in 1999, and then 2000 rolled around, you're just entering retirement. And what happened 2000, 2001, 2002? That was a market decline, a 33 market decline. This mountain that you were on top of just crashed and burned for 33 months. So think about it, listeners. Let's say you're retiring right now or you're about to retire. Do you think you can follow the 4% rule if the stock market, if we are in a recession right now, went down? And let's say it went down for 33 months. Like, paint that picture, visualize it. What would you live on? Would you live on the money that just went down? Or do you have to live on that money that just went down? And Most times people have to live on that money because that's how they live. But yet the market went down. You were taught for all these years, financial conventional wisdom, never sell. It's a paper loss like we spoke about earlier. But yet now you're forced, because you're in this decumulation phase, you're living on your income, off your assets that you saved all these years, and you're pulling money out and you're selling to get a check every month. So 2000 to 2010, we call this the lost decade, Randy, because people were following this 4% rule and they lost 30 and 40. Some people lost 50% during that time period. It didn't matter where you were. It was painful because for 3 years, the market goes down and then it took 5 years to get back to even. So we have 7 to 8 years that you weren't supposed to touch that retirement asset till it got back to even. And you had ruined everything you had been trained to do previously while you're in your accumulation phase when you're growing your money for 30 to 40 years. And so the actual average in the S&P 500 was 1.8%, Randy, yet you're pulling 4% a year. And it wasn't 1.8 every year, 1.8, 1.8, 1.8, 1.8. It was the stock market going down and crashing for 33 months, and in 5 years of it crawling out of that hole. The average was 1.8% during this last decade. And this is why one of the biggest fears in retirement is running out of money, because at times just like this. And anybody thinks that this time period couldn't come back? I don't know. It's a little wishful thinking. I would hope it wouldn't. But then 2007, 8, and 9, that was an 18-month decline where you couldn't touch your money again. The S&P dropped 50.1%. And you're pulling 4% from a portfolio for 18 months. And it took 4 years to crawl out of this hole. So for almost 6 years, you're pulling 4% from this portfolio. When it was hemorrhaging and when it was at its lowest base possible, this is why your accounts cannot come back to even, because you're pulling money out. Maybe you're keeping the same risk, but at the end of the day, Randy, more people sold at the bottom, and that did hurt them. So that's something we don't want to do. And this is why you need a strategy. And it's interesting. People come in here every day scared to death that they're going to run out of money. Running out of money is a call sign for longevity risk. You are fearing that you're going to outlive your money. Right? That's what it's about. It's emotional, it's psychological. And so many of you, even today, after listening to me for years, still do nothing. Still don't create that plan. So that worry comes off the worry chart. Check that off. If you come in and see us, we do income planning like no other. That is our forte. And I and our team and other advisors, we love what we do because it's so dialed in and we do it every day. And we've been doing it every day for almost 20 years, every day. And then when our clients come back in for reviews, we're updating and checking it twice, making sure we find out if that portfolio is naughty or nice. Okay, that was a joke. But at the end of the day, having that written plan is going to be key, because some of you very well might be able to follow this 4% rule if the plan is coordinated and you have the right asset allocation and you're just not in a 60-40 portfolio.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that we need to change our ways as far as spending and making money when we get into retirement. We are used to getting a check every 2 weeks. You deposit that check in your checking account, and then you start writing checks. You start literally peeling money off the top so you can pay your bills and live. But in retirement, that check doesn't go in there like it did before, and peeling money off the top of your savings is a good way to run out of money. So we have to have an income plan, meaning the money that you've made all these years goes to a place that makes you money. It throws off a check. And that's something that most of us don't have a lot of experience in, but it's what Charisse does every single day. Give us a look on our website. Give us a call. Let's talk about how all these years of hard work of savings can help you build that income that you need in your retirement years. Income that doesn't run out. Here's our number. Here's our website, ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. You'll see a gold box there. It says complimentary retirement consultation. Click on that. We'll reach out to you, or you can reach out to us right now. 833-368-3680, 833-368-3680. Get a date on a calendar. Let's talk through it and talk about how you are going to get paid in retirement. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, if I were to tell you that 70% of you were in danger of losing money in the market in the near future, would you want to do something about it? Probably so. We'll tell you that story coming up next on Retirement Coffee Talk. Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Sharice Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, zinniawealth.com. ZINNIA wealth.com. If it's time to talk about your retirement, you don't have anybody to talk to, you listen to the show, you say, one of these days I'm going to call her. Well, that day is here. Give us a call, 833-368-3680. Let's talk about how your retirement is shaping up, how you're going to get paid, what are you going to do about Social Security, Medicare is coming up. There's lots to talk about. Let's get it all out on the table and solve those things you're concerned about. 833-368-3680. All right, so if there were a study or somebody like Warren Buffett, a really, really respected person, came out and said that 70% of you are going to lose a vast amount of your money in the market, what would you do? I'll bet there would be people knocking down your doors, Sharice. What is coming and how do you protect me? There would be a panic out there. Well, I'm glad to tell you.
Nobody listens to me. They don't panic when I say stuff.
Well, I'm glad to tell you that there is no such study, and Warren Buffett did not say that. But there is a study that says 70% of us are going to need some kind of care, long-term care in our elder years, whether it's at home, whether it's assisted living, whether it is memory care, whether it is nursing home care. 70% of us are going to need this kind of care. Yet, when we ring that bell, Sharice, nobody seems to panic. Nobody seems to answer that bell.
No, they don't do that.
They
They're
just don't.
I'll drive off a bridge.
Exactly. They don't seem to feel that sense of urgency.
Because it's so far away.
Yeah, I know. I get it. But let's talk about how you approach that, because after we talk about investments and after we talk about taxes and after we talk about estate planning, this has got to come up. And do people just dismiss this and say, I don't want to talk about it, or no, that's not for me, or that's too expensive, or that doesn't run in my family? What is the reaction?
All of the above.
Okay.
Actually. Good,
right.
Good job. When you come in on our second appointment and we build your income plan, there's going to be a bunch of options for us to choose. Because I truly, personally, and so do many of the gurus across the country, believe that long-term care policies aren't necessarily the answer, but sometimes they can be very helpful for a percentage of people depending on your inventory, meaning do we have debt? Do we have homes? Do we have two homes? What is the fixed income coming in? How much are we actually living on when it comes to the stuff we save? So there is a big shuffle of questions we have so that we can coordinate if that care is necessary or not. So when you come in after that second appointment, well, we're going to show you your income plan and we're going to give you options. That's like, listen, when you're 80 years old, let's say you need to use this at 80. A lot of people will, it'll be between 80 and 90. Very few need it before then, but once in a while we'll have that. You have this option. Your asset at 80 years old is $3 million, or maybe it's $2 million. Do you think you can write a check? And a lot of people are like, I don't know. I'm like, well, look at the income plan. How much do you see here at 80? How much do you think you're really going to be living on your money at age 80 based on this income plan? And I'm like, if a nursing home costs $200,000 a year and you happen to be in there for 3 years, technically you could write a check for $200,000 a year for 3 years, because you're still going to have $1.4 million down the road. So you could write a check if you wanted to, just thinking outside this box here. And if you have a surviving spouse that lives longer, well, they're still going to get their income checks and they're still $1.4 million, right? And let's say you guys are the same age and they live to 90. They're not going to run out of money and they're going to have money for long-term care. So that's one way you could cover your care.
Self-pay.
Self-pay. But some people say, well, I want to leave that $2 million to my kids. And I said, okay, do you really? And we start to take a deep dive on that. They're like, yeah, I do. And some people are like, not so much. They get the house, they get the property, they'll get what's left over, right? And then I said, well, here's your second choice. Will your kids take care of you? Because some people who haven't saved that 2 million or 1.5 million or 3 million, whatever the number is, by the time you're in your 80s, well, you got to ask yourself some questions. Well, if I can't write the check, will my kids take care of me? And 8 out of 10 people, they say that they don't want their kids taking care of them. That's pretty personal. And you don't want to leave that for your kids to do. But if you've trained your kids to do that because you did that for your mom and dad, that's a different story. It just depends what the family has done and what you feel should be done for your care. But you got to talk to your kiddos about that. So that is one thing that could be done. But I don't know too many family members that can pack up their stuff and sell their house and move on down south, right? You could go buy a long-term care policy, Randy. And, Genworth, Mass Mutual, John Hancock, all those companies that offer them for years. And there's no guarantee on your premium. And the chances of your premium doubling or even going up higher is likely because that's what we're seeing from 10 and 20 years ago. Those policies have nearly doubled. And to keep the old premium you had, you have to lower this amazing benefit that you're counting on for your long-term care. So it's turned into like an upside down cycle, unfortunately. And these companies actually don't even want to cover your care because it's such a huge liability. So I'm not a big fan of long-term care policies, just so you know. And a lot of you are thinking, oh, thank God, because I might not qualify for it because I have this ailment or this is going on. The other option you could do is go with a life insurance policy. And I am not big into selling life insurance in here unless you got a bunch of kids and you're just starting out, et cetera, if you come from one of our families. But a life insurance with a long-term care rider, and a bunch of gurus out there will back up what I'm telling you here. It's a great option because the reason why people don't buy long-term care anymore today, Randy, is because if they don't use it, they don't want to lose it. So this solves that problem because let's say you buy, for example, a $500,000 death benefit, you can accelerate that benefit at 2%. And so that is $120,000 a year for 4 years. That will help with home health care because most people want care in their home first before they go to nursing home. And that will certainly help if you go into a nursing home. So that's one option. And if you don't use it, somebody is going to get the remaining part of that life insurance tax-free. So that's something you can do. But again, you have to go through underwriting. So if you're not the healthiest as you used to be, maybe that's not the best option. So the next option is probably one of the better options is a lump sum guarantee. You put $100,000 in with this insurance company and they give you somewhere around $400,000 in long-term care benefits. $400,000 off that $100,000 investment. And if you die and you don't use it, your beneficiaries are going to get somewhere around $250,000 in death benefits. So that's a good use of your money if you have dead money sitting at the bank and you've got $300,000 or $400,000 sitting in savings making 0.25%. Well, that's exciting. This is a great way to do that. But again, do not just go do it without us creating this income plan for you, because if you can write a check or we have other alternatives, I don't want to waste money on that $100,000 in there if we can invest it and average 4 to 6% in some sort of fixed product for those dollars later on anyway. So again, there's a lot of thinking that goes behind what we do here. There's annuities out there that have long-term care riders on them. There's probably only 2 companies out of the 7 or 8 that I prefer because they're a little bit more constant and consistent for care duties. But then I'm still watchful on those. So sometimes it's just not necessary. And nobody can offer you any of these things. I am telling you, nobody can offer you any of these things until they do a written income plan and you can look out into the future when you're 80 to 85 years old. So if you walk into the office and say, should I get long-term care? And the person says, oh yeah, here, have this one. This is the best one out here. It'll cost you, $1,500 a year. But they haven't done the income plan to figure out, is that even necessary to have the conversation about all the alternatives? They're not doing you justice. That is not the fiduciary way, in my opinion. So getting down to the nitty gritty, taking inventory, where are you at? What do you need? Do we have kids? Can we write a check? Creating an income plan. What are our savings? What's our fixed income that's coming in? If somebody passes away and we lose a Social Security check, how does that hurt us? So there's all these pitfalls that you can run into. So we test those pitfalls in our retirement income plan that we want to offer everyone. This is something that I have built out And it's quick, fast, easy, and it's so simple to understand. It's probably going to be the most simple thing that you're ever going to come across. I've heard that for years. So listen, if you're sitting there and you're saying, gosh, Sharice, I don't have a long-term care plan. I have some guilt. What happens to me? What happens to my spouse? I have diabetes, maybe high blood pressure. I don't think I can even get coverage. Listen, you are the perfect person to come in and see us because we can wash those worries away by starting the plan. And if you go to zinniawealth.com, click that little gold button, and guess what? We're going to dial in. We're going to start the conversation, and we're going to say, at least we looked, at least we planned, whatever direction you end up going. And I'm going to tell you, there's nothing better than confidence when you're in retirement. And how are you going to have that if you don't start the process?
Well, if you've been listening to us over the last 5 to 7 minutes here, as Sharice has been going through these options, you probably have somebody in your life who has had to go into long-term care, and you know what this costs, and you know how difficult this is. You see yourself there, and you go, I don't want my kids to deal with this. I want to make sure that I'm funding this. Sharice has given you 4 options right there that you can talk through. Let's have that conversation. If this is on your list, Sharice can help. 833-368-3680. 833-368-3680, or again, online, ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. Click on that gold box and you'll be on your way. One of the things that Sharice and I have been talking about and watching very closely is the Social Security situation. We all know that in 2033, they keep changing the date and the year that the trust fund runs out, which means it's possible that they will probably decrease the amount of Social Security that will be in your check. Now, Congress is now looking at some of the possible solutions to this, and of course, the one they come up with is up the retirement age. So instead of 67 being the full retirement age, now it would be 70 as the full retirement age. So that seems, I mean, there are people, Sharice, that can't wait to retire. I think the average retirement age in this country is 62 or 63. Telling somebody that they have to stay on at their job for another 7 years seems unrealistic to me. So I want to ask you 2 questions. Number one, if they change this, just say in the next couple of years, do you think it affects people who are in retirement right now or are right on the edge? Or do they say everybody, who was born after 1970, this is going to affect? And then the next question is, how does this affect your planning?
This has to happen. We have been teaching Medicare classes for 15 years, and we said this very thing will happen one day. And we said the full retirement age would go to probably 68, 69 first, but to pop it all the way to 70, this is the dire straits that we are in right now. This is the lack of care and kicking the can down the curb, these wonderful politicians out there, and it's ignoring the matter of fact for the future. They know, they're not dumb, forward thinking that everybody's screwed, right? Excuse my language. But they're not doing anything because they wanted the vote the whole time. If they just would have implemented small little phases over the last 15 years, we wouldn't be here. So yeah, it is going to change income planning. So at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to affect the baby boomers so much up front because it'll be the next group of people aging in. So for myself, when I collect Social Security, I won't be able to collect at 67. That's what that means. I'll be able to collect at 70. That's basically how this is probably going to work. And that does need to happen. And I am planning for it. I'm planning for Social Security not even to be here by that point. But for the baby boomers today and the people who are just starting to collect or going to be collecting over the next 5 years or so, I don't think it's going to affect them. But I will say, whenever there is change in one area, remember they always giveth and then they take it away. I don't know what that part of it's going to be. It could be where if they don't make a move fast enough, they could lower your benefits. Like they said in 2023, they came out and said, hey, we might be lowering your benefits 20% on average because we got our sticky fingers in the Social Security melting pot and we got a problem. And we keep printing money and saving the world and creating more entitlement programs and nobody cares, but we're going to keep printing money, right? So it's an unfortunate event. And this is why I feel like sometimes the government doesn't understand the basic economics, right? Basic economics that you learn in college, and how to do this strategically on a budget and over time. And now we're backed into a corner, and it's going to hurt a lot of us. Social Security might be means tested in the future. Social Security right now, there's a provisional income formula on how much you're going to be taxed. I wouldn't put past the government that they up that number faster than they normally do, or they add like another surtax to Social Security if you hit a modified adjusted gross income over a certain amount. I don't know. There's a lot of pitfalls along the way. All I know is that somebody's got to pay the piper. And the people who pay typically are the ones who save the most. Yeah. And the people who save the most are the baby boomers. Yeah. So they're going to get you. And so how do we prevent them from getting us? Well, we have to have a solid plan. We have to have a solid foundation, and we have to have those what if factors, because when you're coming in to see us and we build these income plans, I'm going to say, you know what, if somebody passes in 5 years or 10 years, do we have enough saved? We can even go to the extent to say, hey, your Social Security benefits in 2033 are going to go down 20%. Let's look at that. How does that affect you? How much more do you have to pull out of your other portfolios to actually make it for the next 30 years in retirement? And on average, people need an extra $800 to $2 million saved if that were to ever happen. Do I think they're going to do that? I didn't think they were going to pass this inherited IRA problem where the kiddos had to cash that out over 10 years before they never had to do that. So that happened. So I'm not going to put anything past them, because whatever they got to do to protect the economy, to protect the pocketbooks, they're going to do. And we have no decision making in that.
Well, when you think about this, our job as savers is going to get harder, because if Social Security is going to be 40, 50, 60, 70% of your income in retirement, and all of a sudden you have to replace a whole bunch of that on your own, that makes our job harder. And Sharice, that's going to make your job harder as well. That income planning is really going to be forefront, isn't it?
It is. And, most people, they don't think about the income plan. They just think about, okay, I got this chunk of money. I have this investment plan. Okay, we're going to go with a big advisor, and we're going to go do our 60-40 portfolio. And then there's going to be a market downturn. But people forget that market downturns come and go, and it's going to hurt. But there's other things that will also impact you down the road, like Social Security changing in those rules, like healthcare events, like higher taxes, right? And then worrying about passing your monies on the most tax efficient way you can. Have you thought about those things? So all these are hazards that have to be addressed. Markets need to be addressed and how we pull money, but all those other things, it's part of the big picture, and Social Security planning is a big part of it. We enjoy it here. We understand it, and we will help direct traffic on best strategy in that department.
Well, give us a call. We call it a portfolio x-ray. We will do one for you at no charge. If you want to know what to do about Social Security, the headlines bother you, what is going to be left there for you, how do you make sure that you get your share, give us a call. Give us a look on our website, zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. And you can see a gold box there. It says complimentary retirement consultation. Click on that. We'll ask you to put in a little information there, and then our team will call you, and we'll get a date on a calendar. Or you can bypass all that and just call us now at 833-368-3680. Again, 833-368-3680. Sharice, we have about 5-6 minutes left in the show. And before we started here today, you were telling me about a policeman that came in, and it was kind of an interesting, we're talking a lot about income today, and he's worried about income. So why don't you tell me that story? Because he is not ready for retirement yet. He's not 65 years old. He's in his 50s.
Early
and there's
50s.
There's some special rules that go along with taking money out of 401ks, and even if you're in a certain career. Tell me a little bit about that story.
Yeah, it's story after story in my office, and I thank everybody for coming in because I get to share them. So we have a gentleman in his early 50s that wants to retire at the end of the year, and his wife's about the same age. And they came in. They have already looked at a couple advisors, one that one of their family members is using right now. And I guess they listened to my radio show, and they're like, maybe we need to give this one more advisor look, because they've gotten conflicting information. And so they came in, and Just the sweetest couple ever. And they were just really concerned that they might run out of money. And the missus is like, what about long-term care? And the mister came in and said, I want to do a 72T. Do you think we can do the 72T? Should I leave my money back at Mission Square? I was going to leave it all. I was going to roll my wife's retirement accounts over to Mission Square. And I looked and I'm like, I know you want all these questions answered. Let me get to know you, what your dreams are, what your anxieties are, what you saved, your income. Let's go through this connection appointment, this vision appointment, and we'll go and I'll start answering some questions. So I answered some of those questions at the end, but it was still too hard to tell and give him the right advice. All I know is he's met with a few people and all I could hear is sales. Somebody wants to sell him something, right? They came back in on the second appointment. And we are about to start the income plan, okay? And they said it again, long-term care, 72T. I said, listen, I'm going to come back to the 72T. The 72T just means when you're under 59 and a half, you can access your retirement accounts without penalties, right? There's a whole rule behind it. And then when you are a firefighter, a police officer, you work in a certain field, you're allowed to do that as early as age 50, basically. And if you leave money behind at Mission Square or TSP or your 401ks, et cetera, you can access that at age 55 without penalty as well. So I'm not here to go over the rules, but I knew what he was talking about. But at the end of the day, we built the income plan. And I said, how much do you need to live on in retirement? And they said about $70,000. Does that include travel? They're like, yes. And so we talked about their travel, how much they were going to spend. I'm thinking, oh boy, these people need to spend more money, but we'll get there. I'm thinking to myself, as we build the income plan, I said, okay, if you retire right now, your income is approximately $120,000. I said, you just said you only need $70,000 because you have no debt. And this is part of your travel package too. What are you going to do with the extra money? He went, I think I'm going to save it. I said, you're in retirement. Why are you saving your money now? You've saved for the last 35 years of your life. This is where you spend. His wife looked at me and he looked at me and went, that's going to be the hardest part, Charisse, is me spending this money. And I said, okay, so that's income now. But when they're 62, which I think was 8 years from that point, your income's $170,000. I said, you only need 70. What are you going to do with the extra 100,000? And they both looked at me like, And he said, save it. And I said, no, we don't save it, but we can plan with it. But I said, I think you need to update your travel plans and your bucket list. And they were like, yeah, I think so. I was like, so do you feel comfortable that you could spend more money now? He went, yeah. And I went, okay, so let's go back to that 72T. Do you think you need a 72T? And he went, no, because the 72T is what's supposed to give you income for the next 5 years without any penalties. Because if you take money out of your IRAs and 401ks before you're 59 and a half, you have a 10% penalty. I said, why was this gentleman pushing the 72T? He went, I don't know. He said, I had to put my money here and do this. And I'm like, did he build the income plan? He went, no. I was like, you see where I'm going with this? He went, yes. And then his wife said, well, what about long-term care? I'm like, let's look at the income plan. And I said, you're going to have $4 million at 78 years old. Do you think you need a long-term care plan? I was like, do you think you can write a check? And she went, yeah. I said, and so this aha moments are happening. And I said, the other advisor there's a whole different office trying to sell them long-term care and an annuity with long-term care. I was like, do you think you need to waste your money there? And they went, no. I mean, literally, it was like, aha, over and over and over. Yet they feared running out of money. Yet they never needed to touch their money. Yet they didn't realize that they actually had all this disposable income because it was never written down and nobody talked about it. And nobody's training inside these companies that have, public school servants and people working at the hospital or sheriff's department and all that. Nobody's or Duke Electric. It's the same story everywhere you go. Nobody's teaching this stuff. Yet you have Tom, Dick, and Harry out there selling you something you don't need. And he said, well, you are at the top of our list now, And it was such a great conversation. And I'm like, let's start to really build the retirement dream.
Well, look what happened when they searched and searched and searched to try to find somebody that they clicked with. And then finally they found Charisse. and they were exposed to things that they had never been talked about before. Not only that, she knows because she's dealt with police and fighters before and EMT workers and the special rules that surround teachers and all that goes along with that. Give Charisse a call, get that second opinion, or just start right there. Give us a look on our website, zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com, or 833-368-3680. 833-368-3680. That is all the time we have for today. Charisse will give you the last word.
All right, you guys. Hey, welcome back to the grind of school and traffic, right? Thank you for listening to us while you're in the cars, or maybe you're on your podcast and on your lawnmowers, and share our shows. Go to our podcast, share those. Retirement Coffee Talk on your Apple phones. You have a podcast link there. You can use Spotify, iTunes, even we're on YouTube. You name it, we're there. And again, I know there's a lot of panic in our world, and we want to be the voice of reason, help calm the chaos. If you have any questions, give us a call. Live by design and not by default, and we'll see you here next week.
This has been Retirement Coffee Talk. To find out more about how the strategies we've discussed on this program can build the retirement you've been wanting, call Zinnia Wealth at 352-368-3680 or visit us online at zinniawealth.com.
Charisse Rivers is an investment advisor representative of Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Charisse Rivers is licensed in your state, please contact their office. Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Any client experiences discussed during this show are unique to that client. They are not meant to imply or suggest you will experience the same results. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Charisse Rivers, NPN Insurance License Number 8718011.